let's talk about working with graphics in a document now that we've got our text going. To add final design element to the postcard, we're going to import, resize, and position a graphic. So graphics used in InDesign documents are placed inside frames also, just like typography. And then you use the selection tool to resize, like we talked about earlier, and to position it within the frame and within the page. So first, we're going to position this little graphic inside our document. So let's look at here's our end result that we're looking for. And so you can see here's where that little logo or graphic of the fork and knife is supposed to end up. And so we need to move it over into this area. And then we're going to recolor it, and we're going to set it at kind of an angle. If we were going to go out and get this file, we would do it the same way as we would the text. So you go to File and then Place. The shortcut or the key command for this is Command D or Control D. So if we do that, and then it looks like we have a photo that we can go grab there. So grab the dining room photo and click Open. Whoops. And it looks kind of cool. It went right inside that little graphic that we have. But if you undo that, now I've got my loaded cursor, kind of like what we had before. And so I'm just going to click. And now I've got the photo there. So that's a little large. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to click and drag about the size that I would like the photo. So that's two different ways of doing it. You can either just click and get it in there and then resize it, or you can click and drag, or you can have your box, your image box already created, which is over here. That's the ellipse frame tool or rectangle frame tool. You can do that, create your box, and then you can use Command or Control D and go get that dining room photo and just click on it and hit open, and it'll go right inside that box. And then you'll have to resize it once you get it put in there, which we'll talk about in a minute. All right. So then you can just kind of move it around to where you want it. So let's see where they kind of have it posted. They have it in this upper right corner. So we're going to do that. Click that up there. We're going to move our little text box here and put our picture of our dining room in there. All right, so I'm going to select all of my text. So if I click in and get my text tool, so I just double clicked, and then I can do Command or Control A, and then I'm going to do Command or Control Cut. And then I'm going to click into these little boxes down there and do Command or Control Paste. And I'm going to delete my other box. And so this one, they already had this created. I'm going to click on the little plus sign and load that right into this box. Okay, so now these two are threaded. Let me see if I can, let's see. I want to show you the text threads. So this is kind of a good way to really understand how those boxes are interacting with each other. So this little blue line here shows that this box is connected to this box. Okay, so now we have this guy in here. We've put the little plate there. Those two pieces were already in there. So the next thing we're going to do is resize this image just a bit. All right, maybe we want it a little farther that way. We're going to do Command Shift. I believe, does that just do the box? Nope. You have to do Command and Shift to keep it in proportion and to increase the size of not just the box, but also the thing in it. So that links those things together. If I just click on this and grab, say I grab the corner of this, even if I hit Shift and I drag this, all it does is make my container larger. It does not make my image any bigger. Okay, so you have to make sure you link those together by doing Command and Shift together, or Control and Shift together. I'm going to shrink that back down, actually. I think that's a little large. Well, kind of, so you can see how I'm kind of lining it up with the things that are already on the page, or trying to. Okay, and sometimes if your image is larger than your text box, you still could pull this out. Like if you had a little more picture, the space of the picture showing, you can pull this down to show a little more photo. You can kind of crop your images on the fly, but you haven't actually affected the actual image. Okay. All right, so let's look at our little plate here. We're going to rotate this guy just a bit. Let's look at our final project. So it's at this, I don't know what degree angle you'd call that, but we're gonna do that. We're just gonna hover around by the corner, and then I'm just gonna grab it and start kind of rotating it. Okay, until I feel like that's probably about where they had it. Good enough. And then I can change the stroke and the fill here. So if I double click on this, I can't see my swatches on here. So I really want it to be the same color as my green and my red, right? So you have a swatch option here. So if you go to Window, Color, you can actually pull up your swatches. So here's probably under Colorful Theme is where you find the color palette for this particular document. So now I can look at the fill and the stroke, and I can fill that with the colors that we've got here. So the red is on the inside and the green is the stroke. Okay, so all I have to do, make sure that this one's on the top, the fill, and I'm going to click on the red. And then I'm going to click not on the switch. If I click on this little arrow thing, it's going to switch the fill color to the stroke. And that's not what I want to do. I just want to select on the back one, just click it so that it is above the fill. And then I'm going to click on the green and it's going to fill all that in. Okay, so the swatches palette, that's how that works in InDesign. And you can add these swatches. Obviously, you can create folders. And that is, we'll worry about that in just a little bit. For now, it looks like the point size for the outside might be a little bit bigger than a 1. Maybe not. Let's see what it says. Nope, it says 1 point. I don't know. The green looks a little bit stronger on there than on ours. 1 point. Nope, I guess it's the same. So that's how you change the stroke and fill in there. And then if we want to match their boxes down here, you notice that the fill on those was white, or we could use paper for now. And then the outline or the stroke was green. Right? There you go. And you can also see where they probably use character styles right here to make that red. Maybe not if you're doing something small like a postcard, then you might not need to do something like that in order to change something on here because you're not doing it repetitively throughout an entire document, but you have that option if you need to. Let's see. You can also set this, what we did here, you can set it as an object style. So if you know you're going to have to do this for a lot of different things in a document, if you go to object and layout, that's not it. Probably under styles. I'm going to do object styles. You can create your own. So there's one that they've already created. And so if we click on that, green stroke and drop shadow. So it did a white fill. That's weird. So, oh, I see. That one was for this. That was unclear. I'm going to do red and just refill that. So it comes with a drop shadow. So we could actually do that on this one, on these guys. Green stroke and drop shadow. And then we just kind of fix this. The nice thing about having two separate boxes instead of having it in columns is that you can adjust your columns based on what's going on in each little box. Okay, so now we've done this. So I'm going to hit tab because we don't need to be viewing all of our tools and stuff right now. We want to go to view. We're going to go to screen mode and back to preview. And maybe we'll even zoom out just a teens. Whoops. Or a lot. Okay. Come on, just a little bit. Oh, man. So we're just going to do that. How's that? And so now you can kind of get a feel for what this is going to look like when it actually prints out with the clean edges and without all of the little things inside, all the lines and all that. So this kind of helps if you switch to this every once in a while. I don't recommend designing in this view, but I do recommend after you've done most of your work or a lot of your work, switch to this so that you can get a really good feel for what it's actually going to look like when you print it out. All right, and then let's just look at, there's one other way to look at this in presentation mode. And so that just kind of gives you a nice black background so that so you can look at multiple pages, which we don't have in this particular one. But yeah, it gives you kind of so that you're not distracted by the program. So this is something you can do in Photoshop and in Illustrator, but you use a different command, I think. So then you just hit ESC to escape out of that. All right, so there is working with graphics, working with objects and object styles, and rotating objects and moving them around.